Hello and welcome. As I travel across the world and meet young people, what strikes me is the desire to have a career in IT. In many people, thousands and thousands of people look for careers in IT. Yet, when I look across, even of the minuscule people who make it into IT, very few last because of the nature of the change and the pace of the change that happens in that industry. So I was very interested as to how can we guide young people to build a career, not a flash in the pan kind of stuff, but a real career in IT. So I decided to bring in somebody who's been in the industry and is a veteran of more than 30 years and has reinvented himself again and again in companies that have been at the forefront of innovation and disruption. He sits on many industry panels like CII and was named as one of the top 100 influential people in tech by MIT Sloan India. So he's no stranger to forums like this and no stranger to being a mentor to young people. Hearing from him will probably give us a lot of insight and very valuable tips on how to build a genuine career in the information technology space where AI is the flavor of the season and he's right in the heart of things when it comes to AI. So please join me in welcoming Ashish Khushu. Welcome, Ashish.
First of all, Nalan, thank you for having me here. And also, thank you for such generous and kind words. I'm just another cog in the wheel. Will be happy to share my experiences if that could be of some help. It's interesting that you asked that question because when we are doing these type of landscaping, it's extremely important to do a landscaping of the economic scenario of the country you belong to. The changes in a country like India have been completely dramatic and rapid compared to a more stable economy and economic regime that was in the West or the European countries. I'm sharing that since you have an international audience. When we graduated and got into the job market in late 1980s, 1988, 89, at that time India's GDP was around probably $300 billion.
Yep.
And you now have the same economy at $4 trillion, looking at a 10 or $15 trillion in the next 15, 20 years. So the economic situation, the job market, absence of internet, and a traditional society where people are moving from low income to upper middle income were the considerations when you choose, or rather not even choose, but get forced through a system into a certain type of line of education. So I did get to do engineering. But I was always interested in science. I also was very interested in history, philosophy, and over a period of time, then it turned out to be technology. And the reason I highlight that is that it's very important to understand some of these linkages. Science came to prove whether philosophical positions were right or wrong. Sun is at the center, Earth is at the center, gravity, etc., etc. It's got a very strong linkage to the thought process. And it gradually moved to engineering to prove, build prototypes, and now you have new age technologies, etc., etc. And it's also important to understand history, because if you understand that aspect, you also start realizing that technology does not change dramatically. It changes incrementally, except that when you adopt it in a certain manner, it causes disruption. So I think these are the type of learnings that I had, and I got a good mentor in my first job, and that's how it just
Let me
navigated itself into an IT
let me
industry.
let me pick on that for a moment. So a lot of us in the 80s, 90s got into careers by chance, not choice, right?
Yes,
Because an industry was booming. So if I recall at that time, even if you did not have a formal computer science degree, if you
yes,
did a course from NIT, Aptech, etc., you would get sucked in because the demand was so much. So it's a function of timing. A lot of
yes, absolutely.
companies, careers take off because of timing.
True.
Today, we are seeing something similar with the flavor of the season being AI. Is there a fundamental difference now uh, that people, there isn't enough formal AI graduates and people are taking industry micro credential certified people? Is it happening or not yet?
So, before I answer that question, let me just qualify this that it may come out as a contrarian view, but I have a direct team working on AI for 10 years now, and we have filed around 235 odd patents. So I'm completely invested in AI. But I think it has layers. Your question is very important, and it has layers that, in my opinion, have to be understood. One is that there is a fundamental change that AI is driving today. And that change is not really AI. The change is that for the first time in a very long time, innovation and learning on a subject is happening at the same time across different countries, different nationalities, and everybody's learning at the same time. Now, that's really profound because this learning is collaborative learning, papers being published in universities, work being done, seminars, dissemination, so on and so forth. So this presents a huge opportunity and a huge challenge. The opportunity is that if you have an opportunity to get onto the bandwagon, invest in a more strategic manner, in a deterministic manner, what you want to do in this area, and the world could be your oyster, right? I mean, in the sense that you could be as good or as better than anybody else. Everybody is almost on the same page. The challenge is that there's so many people invested in this that mediocrity and low knowledge will not help you at all if you want to make a career here. I think this is a profound opportunity for all youngsters that one should understand that you're not behind, you are on the same stage. You should not have this FOMO of, oh, the world is doing AI and I'm left behind. No, that's not the case. You're still in the learning phase. People are still learning what to do, how to do, and what sense to make of AI. Great opportunity. Number two is that we have to fundamentally revisit as engineers and remember that AI is a tool. Now, this is my favorite example. AI in itself cannot solve anything. Now we need to sort of remove the conversations that happen from the big tech companies who are investing in R&D. Remove that conversation for a minute. What can AI solve by itself? Nothing. Nothing. Zero. I mean, I have electricity at home. I know what to do with electricity. It gives me light. Let's say I get a software package which says these are AI, this is an AI tool. What will it solve? AI has to be applied. And if AI has to be applied, you cannot take a huge hammer to kill an ant. You need to figure out what is it that you're wanting to solve. The focus has to be on the problem statement. Focus has to be specialized into the domain, whether it is medical, whether it is video, whether it is multimedia, whether it is automotive, whether it is bank. Understand the complications of the use case and then decide which of the AI technologies can solve it. Which one? Which means that AI has a spread of techniques and a variety of processes that needs to apply. That brings me to the third point, which means that the AI person in himself or herself cannot solve a problem. What you need really is people who understand the business, understand the domain, have a very good idea of what exactly is it that I'm trying to solve, and then they take the driver's seat and go to the AI guys and say, look, can you help solve the problem? So I think if you look at the paradigm in this manner, you will realize that AI as a tool is already around us. It will creep in, it will get disseminated a lot more, but the adoption will be driven by people who are users, not technologists, unlike computer science. So if I go to a shopkeeper or a bank, or I go to your producer who wants to edit this, they are the people who have to come and say, look, I have a complex issue. Now, if you understand these nuances, you can better choose your strategy of what to do with AI. So would you want to build a career as somebody deep into AI, or would you want to focus on your area of passion or expertise and say, oh, fine, this is what I specialize in. I will use AI as a tool. So I think these are the type of profound changes that are happening. But in the headlines, some of these things get missed. And consequently, when I meet customers or I talk to students, the larger impression is, oh, the world will change, jobs will come to an end, and I'm behind everything, everybody's ahead. That's really not the case. That's really not the case. So I think these are some of the things I would suggest people to factor into their plans.
And that's a very good way to put it. And people speak of AI very generically, like they used to speak of the internet or electricity, like the example you gave. It is like when we were kids, we went to a doctor, and that doctor looked at us for every disease. And today, for every organ, you have five specialists, subspecialists, right? So
Absolutely.
AI will evolve, and is evolving faster than anything else. But when you speak to young people seeking a career in technology, not just AI, and long-term career, and not 3 years, 5 years, etc., how do you suggest they set themselves up?
I think um, there's no right or wrong answer for it, but I would just I interact a lot with students, just as background. We also run India's largest private sector hackathon, and it's the ninth edition. And we have about 40,000 engineers from across engineering colleges who participate. And outside the government held hackathon, this is the largest hackathon running for ninth year. And that's one forum where I get to interact a lot with youngsters, and I also visit a lot of startups and colleges. So that's really the domain of my that's really where I get some insights from. I think I go back to the students, and my recommendation is that don't look at careers from the lens of the people who have had an impression in your life, which is your parents, your staff, your colleagues, or your seniors. I'll give you an example. Let's say when people were choosing careers even till 10 or 15 years back, the power of the net and the power of information that was available was missing. Today, it's a lot more richer. The way you can validate and you can understand what are the nuances of various things that are happening are much, much more mature and much better. So that's really one input that others didn't have, you have. Number two, we all need to be wiser in another parameter. And the other parameter that we need to be wiser in is what's the economic landscape of your country or the world looking like in the next 10 years. Now, I don't think a decade or before that this was getting factored in because of the lack of knowledge and maturity of the way we were looking at it. But today we know, the youngsters know that there is a supply chain problem on account of COVID. There are geopolitical issues. That China is an emerging economy. India is catching up. What is per capita income? Sustainability is an issue. Energy crisis is an issue. So when you're preparing for a career, do try to factor in. And I'm not saying you're mature enough at 18 or 17 or whatever age, but do try to factor in that you're trying to prepare for a career which will last 30 years into the future. Which means, let's say, if you're in India, you will work, if you're starting your career, let's say in 2030, you will be till 2060 in a working population, which means that by that time, India's population, India's economy would be a very different number and per capita would be a very different number. Do factor these things. When you start factoring some of these things into your scheme of things, then you need to figure out the third element of technology. I don't think you should get enamored by technology. Technology, we should understand, is a tool that is enabling businesses. It's enabling careers. Now you put all of these things in a mix and then take a choice. Don't go for a blind MBA. Don't go for a blind engineering. Don't go. What the world appears to me at least is a world which is moving towards focus on specialization. A world which needs experts. And you could be an expert in any area. It does not matter. You are an expert who knows how to use technology, who knows what are the trends in the economy which are going to drive buying patterns. It's easier said, Nalan, than done. I'm not saying you'll have that maturity, but I think you should start factoring these things. That wisdom was not available earlier. Factor these into your decision and then take a decision. Just don't blindly go after a degree for the sake of it, or don't blindly reject a degree. A specialization in science, basic science in itself is also a fantastic thing. After all, AI is what? Maths.
Yep. So actually, it's very sage advice, and what you're speaking about is what people speak about as a skill called critical thinking. Analyze things, look at the macro view, look at how it will play out for you. Don't blindly copy. The past templates will not necessarily work in the future.
Absolutely.
And what the world is looking for is specialists who will solve specific problems using tools and technologies that will be
Absolutely.
available. And
Yes.
AI and technology is one of them. It does not subsume all the others. You need to have all the other skills.
And it does not mean that AI is the last new technology.
Not at all. They will see
Yeah.
many more in their lifetimes. So very, very interesting point. I want to now take you back a little bit, and then we'll come back to the young people. You've had a very successful career. When you were young, you probably did not fathom that your life would go this way, right?
Yes,
None of
true.
us, all of us are living lives much more prosperous than our parents did, much more prosperous than our humble backgrounds brought us into, though we aspire for more. Tell me the two or three things that you think, being a critical thinker, that because you've seen many people who started with you, many fell by the wayside, a few may be more successful, many along with you. What are the two or three things that are your strong skill sets that made you succeed or brought you to where you are? We always talk about things that don't go well, but what went well? What are the two, three things that went well?
I think the first thing, I mean, nobody's asked me this question. And so, and in hindsight, everybody looks wise. And I'm sure if there'll be people who'll say, oh, I'm romanticizing my past. But I think a fact is that I did have a, a, a choice of what I would like to do and a choice of what I would not like to do. For example, I was very clear that I would like to stay in a particular geography, that I would like to take a job of a certain kind, and I would like to have work-life balance. And within the job, that this is the type of job I will do. Broader strokes were always there. And even when there were times that I had to, deviate from the broader stroke because of organizational changes or some other changes, I would still try to see how my learnings in that job would come back and connect with the broader strokes. I always had broader strokes, and that those broader strokes became narrower as I went forward into my career with wisdom, experience, etc. Sometimes it did become difficult when the peer pressure of somebody earning more money because he had gone to X company or had gone a Y job, or if I had got an alternative, I would have gone. It is at that point in time your resolve gets tested and you need to stick the course. When you stick the course and your conviction and passion shows out, of course, hard work, passion, but conviction. If your conviction shows out, I have this huge belief in the goodness of humanity. You will get people in the corporate who want to be successful, and you want people like you to help them do that. And that you have to just keep trying, and somebody comes along and says, oh, why don't you do this for me? Or I will give you an additional role, or I would like you to do this. And you hit the bandwagon, and that's how you start accelerating. And that journey is extremely important. So I think that went well for me. What is it that I would like to do? Stuck to it. Felt very bad at times when I missed out on certain offers on monies. Even now, sometimes you feel like you've not made as much money as somebody else would be. But then that's fine. I mean, you need to live with your choices. But eventually, it plays out for you. I think, Nalin, you ask a very important question. This, for Gen Zs, should be very easy. And I think your ability to your ability to talk to yourself and say, this is what I want to do, and I'm not going to get deviated by my by any other area, irrespective of whatever. And you stay the course. Sometimes the course, like a river, will go left or right, northwards or southwards or eastwards, does not matter. Eventually it will go meet the ocean. If you stay the course, I think life becomes much more simpler.
So if I crystallize into few skills that you have displayed through your career, which you spoke about, one is what I believe is an uncoachable thing for leaders. You had clarity of thought. You may be wrong, but you were not confused. You knew what you
Yeah,
wanted, and you had a broad
very
template of
well put.
life
Yes, yes.
that I want to get into this kind of life. Obviously, you have the ability for critical thinking. Second, you have displayed indistractability and focus. You were able to focus on the
Yes.
larger picture and ride out the bad times, waiting for things to play out, believing in the template that you have set up. And you took risks. When people said, I want to do something like this, and I want to give you this opportunity, it was not necessarily a sure shot path, but you made the jump.
Yeah, and I will tell you, and I mean, you're using absolutely the right words, except that there was no bad face. Challenging is the way I would put it. I had this thing that I also want to be a business guy and I want to do a startup, etc. And I got an opportunity to head a company where it was a turnaround case. I think I was able to do a turnaround, but I was not able to sell it. At the end of 3 years, I realized this is not what I am. And and in the new entity, I had a 28% stake. I said,
So,
this is not what I am. I can't do it. So I walked out and started a
right.
career all over again in a separate field. So I think, you
I
need to
don't think,
just stick the course.
in the startup world, I believe people who uh, coach young people that you must stick to it regardless of what happens is bad advice. Sometimes when things don't work out, there's no shame in stopping,
Absolutely.
stepping back, and restarting with that learning in a different direction, or going back
Absolutely.
to your comfort zone. There's nothing wrong in that. But yeah, you had a thought process, a passion, a vision of what you would like to try. You tried it out, worked out a little differently than you wanted. It's a learning. Now you take it somewhere else. That's fine. So just moving forward, there are a couple of important decisions that we make in our lives, right? Rest of it is prefixed, where we will be born, who our parents are, what religion we are into, who our the family is going to be, etc., etc. Even our name, the way we look, is all predetermined. One is the career we choose. The other is if we decide to have a life partner, who our life partner with will be. How important is that decision in
Very,
today's context? That
very.
if you decide to have a
Absolutely.
life partner, how important is that decision? What bearing does it have to have a successful career or life in general?
Absolutely. Very. I am a very, very, very huge believer in this concept of connecting the dots. Absolutely. There is no two doubt about the fact that whatever I am today is a result of my experiences over the last half a century, good, bad, ugly, experiences of interactions, experiences of behavior, of success, of frustration, situation with my parents, what I learned, how I should be, how I should not be, and the same applies to your family. What I see, what the way I interact in the outside world is a result, is an outcome of the baggage of experiences I carry. It's not away from the experiences that I have. So it is absolutely important for you to get your emotional support system in place. That does not mean that you have to have a good spouse. That again means you need to be clear whether you want to be a single, what type of a relationship you want to have, but that needs to be clear. You cannot have a state of confusion. I am 100% because if you've been a good team player, if your emotional support system is in a good situation, you've had great experiences, the way I interact with you results, you can feel that persona coming out based on all these experiences. So going forward in a world where things are changing so much, you do require emotional anchors of a very, very strong kind. You cannot fight battles on all fronts. And the most valuable battle that you should not be fighting, or a most valuable asset that you have, is the family that you choose to build for yourself. Whatever may be the name convention you may want to give them. That's very important. If you decide to have it, invest in it a lot more than your career. If you decide not to have it, perfect. But more you invest in the basic, fundamental, foundational building blocks, the better will be the result at work, the better will be the clarity, the better will be your mental balance, and so on and so forth. So
No, that's very
absolutely,
well
these are
said.
all things that are linked, Nalin. It's, in my view, it's
Yeah,
not one or the other. It's all
it's
linked.
it's very well said, and I hope your spouse is either listening or will listen
No,
to the
she's
podcast.
not.
We'll have a very good meeting. But coming back to your career, now when you started out, probably you never heard the word AI. Neither did I till about 15 years,
No,
12,
no, I
15 years
did
ago.
hear. AI was my third year specialization.
Fantastic. So you
Yeah.
are one of the early adopters. But to remain in a career for 30 plus years and keep growing and reach a position that you have and be a thought leader uh, requires continuous personal upgradation and skills. Not just technical, but even as you go through the different levels of the organization, you need to display it from being a small team player to running a team to networking to public relations, etc. How do you do that? You can't go back to university all the time. How do you do that? What is the mindset that enables that?
I think the mindset is, how do I explain? It's again a very important question. Uh, Let me deviate a little bit.
Sure.
One of the examples I give, I relate to is that you're running, right? Now you can run on a treadmill, and you can run on a road. When you're running on a treadmill, you're covering 5 kilometers, but it's virtual distance covered. You've really not moved from point A to point B.
True.
And when you're working, you're running on a road, you're actually going from one point to the other, or whatever it is. You're really covering physical distance. Now, this is a very important analogy where as I'm concerned, because when you're looking at your day-to-day life in your career, you cannot be tactical all the time. You have to spend 5 minutes on, or 10 minutes, or half an hour of your day on what is next, the strategic next, tomorrow or day after. Otherwise, living day to day on a tactical basis is like running on a treadmill, not covering any distance. Now, to simplify it further, the money that I get on a daily basis, my monthly salary, is a salary. So I am working today to get my salary for next month or the month after. Assuming my company tells me wind up, they're going to give me 30 days notice, right? So really, I am working today for my next 30 days. What are we doing for the 60 days or 90 days beyond? This is very important. I think a very, very, very large number of professionals I have interacted with are so consumed with tactics here and now that relationships get compromised. The way I interact with you and my colleagues and my peers, oh, I have no use for him today. Quite compromised. Consequently, you're not able to build relationships. If somebody is doing a webcast or a seminar, you don't want to attend. Oh, this is of no use. So you're losing out on knowledge accumulation. Oh, my CEO is speaking something. This is all bullshit. It is no needing. You're missing out on listening to what the CEO is landscaping. So I think this is one big element that is missing. I would suggest that everybody understand that you're not running, your career is not a treadmill run. You have to go from point A to point B. That means factor in some amount of time to listen to these elements that will tell you how does tomorrow or day after in your career or in your company looks like. Once you start doing that, you will start having tolerances for the views of others. You will build networks. You will know what the other guy is doing. You will know what the CEO is wanting to do. And in 3 months from tomorrow, you will have your own personal network in the company. So you have news, you have access, you have people, and then that starts propelling you into the next orbit. I think this is the single most reason why learning becomes stagnant, because you are here and now trying to solve only today's problem, as if you don't do it now, the world will come to an end. And that's wrong. The world will never come to an end.
It's a very, very good way of putting it. Sometimes the way I put it is that, when we grow up from school, college, places we work, there are vision statements written on the signboard or on our everywhere. We are asked to repeat it. What's the
Yeah,
vision of the school? What's the vision of the college? What's the vision of the places you work in? I ask people, what is the vision for your life?
absolutely.
Are you going to have one for your life? And you have articulated it beautifully right from the start of how you had clarity of the broad strokes that you wanted. I want this kind of life. I may be wrong, but I'm not confused. I'm going to pursue it and I'm going to stay the course and I will see how it goes and I'll be a continuous learner for the future. So that's what's got you here. Let's go back to young people, today's people, what is called Gen Z, and they are, I think, misunderstood, and the broad strokes in which they are painted is generally very predetermined and not doesn't do justice to the generation. Without a doubt, we are leaving behind a world that's much worse than we got, and a much more complicated, fast-changing world where when we went to college, we knew we'll get a job after that, and today all those things don't hold true. What are the kind of skill sets that they need to practice? Because the skill sets we had, have this job, go there, work blindly, something will open up, something will happen, but they desire different things. And to layer that, because you speak about layering the conversation, do the Gen Zs in larger cities who come out of families like ours, slightly more privileged, with financial freedom to make choices, versus Bharat, tier 2, tier 3, is the generalization really not true? Are there really two Indias? Are there two sets of Gen Zs happening here? And
I
the
think yes.
conversation here in the media is mostly about the modern India.
I think yes. I think absolutely yes. Uh, the Gen Z thing is, in my view, a lot of media hype, absolute media hype. Personally don't understand this Gen Z thing because of a very simple construct. My generation was better than my parents was better than their parents, and my son is better, and the subsequent one. It's evolution. Societies change, so you can't blame me if I born into. We had a phone. My father didn't have a phone, and before that there was no phone. Now, the same applies to cars, the same applies to homes. So if a young guy is born into internet, digital, well, that's the way he knows the world. So to put pressures on him of artificial classifications, etc., I'm not very clear about it. Of course, if you're born in a certain condition, you will behave separately. And you will behave differently. Of course, your aspirations will be different. Your reference points are different. So that is one element that I am not able to comprehend fully, because you can't expect a child born in today's age to behave like one born in 1980 and so on and so forth. It's completely different reference points, exposure, so on and so forth. The second important element, Nalan, is the fact that I get to travel India a lot, and I said I interact with these 40,000 children. I interact with children from other countries as well. Absolutely, it is a phenomena of a privileged class. Now, if you take the lower income and the lower income group and the non-privileged, financially challenged, strata of the society, except for the fact that they have better awareness and better facilities, economically their aspirations are the same as what my generation or the generation before. They still don't have the luxuries of Maslow's law. You're not on top of Maslow's law of hierarchy and trying to look at emotional emancipation. So I think this conversation has to be absolutely layered. Its conversation cannot be a generic Gen Z prototype being put on people from different economic strata. The differences are acute, and I think it applies globally. Children in Africa, Brazil, Argentina, India, and sub-Saharan countries, etc., are not as privileged as Europeans and Americans and Japanese are, and therefore it can't be a single template that gets
Yeah,
applied to each.
let me steer this towards another burning topic, a topic that my company solves, which is employability. So we hear a lot of words, right? People are educated but not employable, they are not job ready, etc., etc. To your mind, just what are the one or two things when people come out of college that they should really work on when they come to the workplace?
Communications,
Okay.
absolutely. Communication is very difficult. We we have communication classes in English or some language. That's not really communicating. Communication of words is again a symbol of is an output of what you know, how well you understand, how well you can put it together, and most importantly, how well do you understand the audience that you are targeting. I have to talk to a certain person based on the person's profile, which you call empathy or profiling. I think this entire package has to be seen holistically. Where
Couldn't agree
we,
more.
where we fail is that it does not matter what language you speak in. I mean, I deal with Japanese. They write very good English, but they have a problem. Koreans, Chinese. Same is the case in India. You can write well, you may not be able to speak, but the question is, what are you communicating to? Who are you communicating? So this whole chain of communication is the most important aspect. It gets reflected in the way our meetings happen, the reviews happen, your confidence in the way it also impacts your confidence because you're not able to actually
Yeah.
put out what you want to. So I think
I couldn't.
the
Yeah.
communication chain, I mean, for the lack of word, I mean, you are an expert, you would know. Not only English speaking, but this whole thing. And this takes time. So Nalin, what I do is as follows. I have a large number of students that I take, youngsters, and I get them to present to me for 30 minutes of 1 hour, get them to then do it in 30 minutes, and eventually over 6 months' time, they have to start presenting their idea in not more than 4 slides. After that, we allow them to participate in customer meetings, listen to webinars, go to seminars, and then after a few months say, now you go make a presentation. It does not matter, let people laugh, but be there, get the stage fright out. The reason I'm highlighting that is for your audience. This is a process that has to be invested in and it takes time. It will have frustrations, it will have embarrassments as well. That's okay. Who cares? Face the embarrassment, speak, learn, and over a period of time you start getting to that point. But this is a very, very important aspect of employability and performance as you go forward, in my opinion.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. The ability to understand and be understood, to network, to present, to sell your ideas. Without that, I don't think you'll succeed anywhere, not just in a job, but generally in life. It's an invaluable skill. And
And especially when you're talking to your customers or even your CEOs, you have people talking the same way like you will talk to an engineer, to a senior engineer, to a customer. That does not work. People expect you to be quick, sharp,
to,
and that comes
yeah,
out
to,
of practice.
yeah.
But you need to start,
Some,
just
yeah,
start
some
going.
of it is maturity and experience, but the contextualized conversations. For example, I tell young people that you speak to your parents, you speak to your brother, sister, you speak to your friends, you speak to your boyfriend or girlfriend, you speak the same way. Then why do you come to work and speak the same way to everybody? So,
Absolutely.
so
Absolutely.
that,
You do
that's
that in
very
your
important.
personal life. That's a good example. In your personal life, you're very good in it, right? You know what to speak, what not to speak. Yeah, yeah. So I think
It's the
that's
same as it's the same as when people say, it's very political at work. I said, it can't be more political than home. But at home, you can't resign from your house. At
So,
work, you choose to.
so one person asked me this question about 3 years back. Why is communication in the way I'm mentioning important? Because a communication with with this context and the person you're talking to will lead to a conversation, and a conversation then helps you learn. It's a feedback, it's a learning process that gets kicked off. And that's important. A conversation is a result of good communication, which is a result of good contextualized, interesting, relevant information. So you see, so that's why having a conversation is very difficult. It's not an easy job. So,
Yep.
and learning, again, conversation is about learning. So I think
Yeah.
that's really
So
how I think it is.
one day more as a friend than professionally, I'll show you the tools we have built that are making people job ready, which makes this podcast go out to 250,000 people across 14 countries.
Awesome, awesome.
But just one last technical question and one last personal question. You spoke about your experience as a startup. There is a phenomena that I just want your views on. So globally, when startup founders make it big, they go back and invest in other startups. The, the trend we see in India is people become millionaires and billionaires selling their startups or finding an exit, but 90% of them go and spend that wealth in real estate. They don't encourage other startups. What's your view on that?
I think it's uh, a strong word, uh, poor integrity, professional integrity, low professional integrity. Um, uh, you have experience, you have money, you've learned. What is the best way by means of which you can contribute back in every possible way? It is to encourage. And eventually I think that's a much better business decision of investing back into your community than going and buying real estate and cars and all that stuff. It not only does it make for great contribution back, it is also great business sense, and more importantly, it's a great statement on your brand leadership, which eventually will propel your company into the next league.
Yep.
So I don't see I don't see any downside to it. It only investing back has only advantages at all levels. So I'm not sure why they do it, but that's poor integrity in my view. Absolutely poor integrity.
So, for my last question, I want you to cast your mind forward. We are not in a generation where we retire at 57 or 60, right? And with the way lifespans are, we'll probably work for another 20, 25 years. What do the broad brushstrokes for the next 20 years look for you? Are there still mountains to climb, or what do you
There
want to
are
do?
there is definitely physical fitness. There's no two doubt about it. By the way, interesting, Nalin, that I'm also learning a lot in the last 4 5 years about proteins and muscle building, etc., etc. The need for it, how to do it. So learning never stops, right? So definitely physical, and definitely pursuing 2 or 3 things that includes uh, uh, that definitely does include some mountaineering trips. I am also scared. I'm scared because I don't want to go climbing and end up in a situation where it's always dicey. So the reason I'm highlighting this is that to my mind it's okay to you have to you have to become mature, and we are doing the same. Become mature and wiser in accepting your faults, accepting your fears.
Do you
Accepting your
do you
fears is
also
not a weakness at all,
yeah.
right? So
do
I'm
you also
scared.
think do you also think more about giving back? Does that thought come more often now?
I don't have too much to give back, but yes, in my
I
own
mean,
way,
as
yes.
knowledge,
Yes,
experience,
yes, yes.
sharing.
I do that. I do that. I do that a lot. I do that a lot without without any reciprocation. I do a lot. Absolutely. So I also therefore don't talk about it a lot, but yes. So that continues. That's I think we got lucky with mentors. We got lucky with some good friends. We got lucky with people. So if there is something that we can do, why not?
So, Ashish, thank you very much. It's a
No, my
reflection of the
pleasure.
fascinating conversation that I've had, that out of the hundreds of podcasts I've held, this is by far the longest. I
Oh,
stopped myself at 25 minutes. We are close to 45. Thank you very much. All the very best. Take care.
all the best to you as well, to all the listeners. Have fun, stay safe, and be healthy. Bye bye.
Thank you.